planning, specifically pre-production,
Yay!
it always pays off.
Every time.
Every time.
Yes.
Tell me why.
Pre-production, it's nice to have pre-production because you actually go into the shoot knowing what the client wants. You want to shoot with a plan. You usually have a shot list. When you cut pre-production, you show up usually with the same questions, and then you're like, well, based on their answers, let's shoot this and this and this and this. It usually makes the shoot day longer. So, you think you're saving money, but then you end up because, shoots are expensive. There's more people on set standing around while you're like, I think we got to shoot this now too. So if you had to spend the, extra time in pre-production, it's always better. And
guaranteed, once it gets to post, the editor will be like, how come you didn't shoot this? And everybody will be like, oh, we didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Every time. Every time. You're paying more in post because the editor's like, well, now I gotta
find something.
A way around it. And I think to clarify for pre-production, I don't know if that term scares people or if they don't understand like what they're paying for. I think especially like we've had client meetings, and one of your strong skill sets is the client says, I'm kind of thinking about this. And before the end of the meeting, you have a pretty good vision in your head and what that looks like. And so I think for the client, they think, oh, perfect. Scott knows what he's doing, which is not wrong. However, that doesn't mean that we don't need to sit down and say, okay, if this is kind of what it's going to look like, how many cameras do we want to use? How long is this going to take? What do we want for a location?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things a lot of people forget about.
Location scouting?
Is location. Well, first of not just any location will do necessarily. Yes. And then when you pick a location, it's amazing when you start looking how few power outlets there can be.
Yes, which is why pre-production also usually includes a site survey.
Yes.
Which is generally me walking around being like, I can plug in there, I can plug in there. That's a really cool angle. Like, let's make sure we shoot that. There's a time and a place for sure to cut it. Especially like award videos, the recipient, you can't always be like, hey, I'm coming to your office 3 days before we shoot this, just to scout location. But that's when we'll reach out in pre-production and be like, hey, can you take some photos of the space we're going to be shooting in so I know what I'm dealing with, right? And
Yeah. But even with those award videos, we don't fully cut pre-production.
No, there's always at least half a day.
Yeah, we're spending a good amount of time reading through their bios, understanding what the award show content what they want that to be, what they want it to say, and crafting questions. And we have spent some time in the past too sourcing locations for people who that's how we found this one. For people who are like, well, I'm kind of an obscure personality, I'm everywhere and nowhere, and you're like, well, I need somewhere. And then I think the other thing that's really important is just because you do a good amount of pre-production doesn't mean you lose any spontaneity on shoot day or even within the post-production process. I don't think I've ever conducted an interview where I didn't ask just as many spontaneous questions as planned questions.
Yeah. I would, if I may cut you off there, I would say pre-production actually allows you to be more spontaneous on shoot days because these are the shots we have to get. And then you can be like, oh, this would be cool. And we have time, right? We've got all the shots we need. Like, let's try some cool stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then same thing in post is it's like, how the structure goes. We usually almost have a post-production budget. And if you know what the skeleton of your video is, it's shot, it's scripted, that takes much less time. It allows the editor to play with more creative shots and transitions and whatever, and instead of spending copious amounts of time combing through interviews to get the right answers, to build the story. Mm-hmm. I've never regretted doing pre-production. I have regretted
cutting it,
not doing pre-production.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, absolutely. So, number one thing.
Pre-production is always a benefit.
Always pays off.
Yeah.
Always pays off.